So a while ago, I made a video talking about one of the changes that I was making to my wardrobe, and that was removing all logos from my clothing. And that was one of those things where I was just trying to think about how I was better able to take my values, the things that I wanted to see reflected in the world, and reflect them in my fashion choices. And over the year, while my opinions around that choice haven't really changed, some of my approaches have evolved, and I want to share them with you today. I'll link that video above if you're interested in checking it out. The crux of it really, though, was that I was trying to really not get caught up in the consumerism of lusting after different brands as fashions change and popularity of different brands come and go. So by removing the brands from the equation, I would have less of that craving to change my wardrobe out as the seasons progress. So now toward the end of 2024, a few of the things that I'm thinking about in relation to my wardrobe are still those considerations about the unbranded nature. I still don't want to really be a billboard walking around shilling a company's brand if I'm not really intentionally trying to promote that company. If I'm not extremely psyched about that company and I'm not walking around trying to broadcast that I think they are a virtuous company, then I don't really want to just be wearing their brand around there and doing free advertising on their behalf. Now, particularly with the actual look of the wardrobe, I was looking for simplicity and timelessness in what I was choosing. I wasn't looking for anything particularly loud. I was going to go for a lot more earth tones, so I wasn't going to find anything that, is in and out of season and different things that kind of don't really work with certain fashion trends. I wanted something that was a little bit more muted and understated, but that also kind of was timeless as well. So I wasn't really going with any particularly innovative cuts of clothing. I'm looking for timeless outfits that have been worn for generations throughout modern history, things that would have been popular during the Beat generation of the 1950s that still work today. There's nothing particularly trendy about these types of clothes, but you're kind of always on trend because you're kind of outside of trend in a way. You're certainly not chasing trends and always lusting after the next thing, and that was really at the heart of my decision when I made that video about no logos. To add to that, I didn't want a typical minimalist wardrobe. When you're normally seeing a minimalist wardrobe video, you're seeing kind of a really bland color palette of just black, gray, and white. They say that it's basically giving yourself a uniform so you have less choices that you have to make and you can dedicate those choices to more important things over the day. While I can understand the argument of decision fatigue, because believe me, I fatigue my mind plenty, I still think that I want to express myself a little bit more with the clothing that I choose. Just like you would choose the certain books that you would read and keep on your shelf, or the music that you would have in your collection, or the furniture that you even choose to put in your house, we're expressing ourselves and showing something about ourselves with the clothes that we wear. I think it's partially where minimalism gets that culty reputation is the fact that everybody just kind of looks like they're devoid of any personality, wearing all black and saying, love people, use things. Love people, use things. I think some level of color is definitely applicable to a minimalist wardrobe because a minimalist wardrobe at the end of the day is just finding a minimal amount of clothes that you can have to be happy. For me, it's not going to be black or gray clothes, but it's going to be more muted earth tones. Partially, I also just like to dress a little bit like an old man. I just kind of like that antique vibe, and that's just the way that I like to dress. I like a lot of historical YouTube channels that I watch, like Townsend's and things like this, and I draw inspiration from that. One more look into what I like, I also really like the channel Waypoint Survival, and he talks all about the old-timey 1930s hobos who rode the rails. I love that aesthetic, and I just kind of like wearing kind of old earth tone brown clothes, and that's just old-timey clothes is what I usually choose. And not to throw shade at the people who wear black or gray in the minimalist community, not at all. I think what these minimalists are looking for is a simple color palette so they're able to take a small amount of items in their wardrobe and make multiple outfit combinations. But this can also be achieved if you just have a vision for your wardrobe and you kind of keep all of your stuff that you're purchasing for your wardrobe to be within a certain vibe. All of my clothes aren't black or gray, and they're also not brown. I have green, I have red, I have white, I even have a pinky color. But because they're all that faded type of look, I'm able to have a smaller amount of pieces and still make a large amount of outfit combinations. When I talked about the no logo approach to clothing, it's a good way to go, but the one thing that it's still not really doing is it's not really addressing the brands that you're purchasing to make sure that you're actually getting relatively ethical clothing. If you're like me, you might hear the term ethical clothing and become a little bit skeptical. I think it's often the case with ethical manufacturing that certain terms are used to give you kind of this rose-colored glasses idea of what is going on behind the scenes, even though it might not be that different to how the clothes are being manufactured for Walmart, let's say. Certain companies boast they're made in the USA in order to give you the idea that they're not using exploited labor like a sweatshop somewhere far away. But at different times, what I found is that some of these companies boasting that they're made in the USA are using actually North American prisoners to do their labor for them at an extremely low cost. Like literally people in jail, in prison. But even if a company is doing some level of good manufacturing here in North America, you also don't know where the textiles are coming from. The textiles could still be made in the same old sweatshops that you would have seen from a brand that you wouldn't want to buy from. So these labor and work type considerations are ones that I am also making in my wardrobe. The other thing is purely making an ecological consideration for the impact of actually buying and having clothes shipped to you to purchase new. People are used to paying a lot less for clothes and buying clothes a lot more often. And as a result, the manufacturing has had to be moved very far away so that it can be done for cheap. Because of the toxic dyes that are also used in the clothing, workers can be exposed to chemicals that can make them very sick over the long term. With all that said, it is very hard to find ethical manufacturing that is truly ethical. One of my favorite creators, Robin Greenfield, has been working extremely hard to decouple himself from the industrial clothing system. He actually found a local producer in North America to spin him, sew him, and dye him his clothing from scratch. Now, of course, that's not something that we can all do or even would want to do because some of that clothing does look a little homely, I'll admit. But the two things that I do to make that low impact wardrobe is to buy my clothes secondhand as often as possible and then to make sure I wear them out. I buy almost 100% of my clothes secondhand from a variety of different sources. I'll buy them from the local thrift store, I'll buy them on Facebook Marketplace, and then I'll even go downtown and look at some of the vintage stores as well. When you're buying secondhand, you're gonna win on multiple fronts. The clothes are always going to be cheaper than buying new. You can also find secondhand versions of very good quality brands that make durable clothing, and you can get them for a lot cheaper than you would new. With that, you can also find older articles of clothing, sometimes quite old, that were made a lot better than the clothing of today and will stand the test of time. And buying secondhand is one of the best ways to meet the ecological and human rights concerns that I mentioned earlier as well. You're not requiring new clothing to be produced and you're utilizing what's already in circulation. When buying secondhand, you don't so much have to consider what the working conditions are of a given brand that you're considering purchasing from because you're not actually purchasing from that brand anymore. You're buying secondhand and you're using that item until you wear it out. And that moves on to the second part. You have to wear out these clothes. This is a general issue for everyone who buys clothes nowadays. Because clothes are so much cheaper than they were 100 years ago, let's say, people just wear clothes until they get a small rip or until they just don't like it anymore, and then they just throw it out or they donate it. They just get rid of it. The problem is if you're donating clothes with holes in it, it's most likely going to just get sent to the dump. So it's important if you're trying to have a simple, anti-consumerist and low impact wardrobe that repair is at the heart of that wardrobe. One of the must-have items to the anti-consumerist wardrobe is a small sewing kit, and you got to learn how to use that thing. Now, I'm not saying you have to master a sewing machine or anything like that, but just the simple needle and thread and patching up your clothing when you have a hole. My girlfriend is a great example of this. She will sit in bed and she will mend her jeans if they have a hole somewhere. She'll sit there for an hour and she'll mend it up to make sure that she can keep that favorite pair of jeans going for another day. And with her help and the help of YouTube tutorials, I have been able to learn the skills to keep my clothes mended and lasting much longer than if I just wore them until the first rip came and then got rid of them. So now I'm going to show you a few key pieces from my minimalist and anti-consumerist wardrobe. Okay, so here we are in my bedroom, and this is my closet. I share this whole wall with my girlfriend, but this corner is mine, and this is my minimal wardrobe. This has been a work in progress, and it's something that's changed and that will continue to evolve as my needs change. But I'll show you a few of my favorite pieces that I've got that kind of exemplify what I'm trying to do here. So right now, these are my t-shirts. I have 7 of them in total. They're all pretty similar. They're just various kind of simple colors that are faded and that are earth tones, and they're all simple crew necks. A couple of them have pockets and a couple of them don't. One of them is a Henley, this one that I just got actually at a thrift store. This really fits in with what I was talking about before of having that simple unbranded wardrobe. I look for a certain feel. I like a soft shirt, and I also like a shirt that has a certain fade to it. These can be acquired very cheaply and readily as well. I went to the thrift store and I was finding these for so cheap. Like this one I got for $3.99. This one also was $3.99. Then I got this black one, which I'm going to be wearing exclusively for work, and it's just a black t-shirt with a pocket on it. This was $5.99. This one's nice too. This is Banana Republic. It's a pocket t-shirt and it's garment dyed. That's kind of the look that I like, and Banana Republic makes a good quality t-shirt. This one again was, I think, $4.99. So I'm buying these shirts. I really like them because again, they have that timelessness to them. They're never really in style per se, but they're never really out of style. You're not going to see somebody wearing these down the runway, but you're also not going to be super out of style wearing these either. You're not going to feel the need to refresh your wardrobe every season because it's suddenly out of style. So that's something that I really appreciate about these. 7 t-shirts is pretty good for me. I honestly could lose this one potentially and go down to 6. The way that I approach my minimalist clothing to begin with is that I just pick a shirt that I like and I wear it a lot. I'll wash it, but I don't really sweat, so I don't have to worry about it getting super stinky. So I can wear it like a couple of days and then I can wash it and I'll just keep using it until it's completely worn out beyond repair. And then I'll look for something else. But I don't see the point in having like 20 t-shirts when I'm really only going to wear like 3 to 4 of them. Like I honestly think 7 of them, they're not all going to get worn very often. It's really going to be 3 to 4 of them that are going to even be in rotation whatsoever. So I think just keeping that in mind is a really good way to hone in your wardrobe to what is truly essential. Over here, I have my button-up shirts. I have 3 short sleeve button-up shirts. One of them I have to wear for one of the jobs that I do. It's actually a uniform, so I'm going to have to hold on to that even though I don't actually wear it in my off time. The other ones, I don't wear them all the time, but they're just good to have in the summer because sometimes it's just a little too hot to do the long sleeve. For normal button-up shirts, I have 4 more of them. These are just nice plaids. I only have 2 plaids nowadays, and it's just the same kind of idea as I was telling you before about the t-shirts. It's the idea that I used to have like 6 different plaids at one point, and I found that I was ever only wearing these 2 plaids. So what I did was I just got rid of the other ones, and I've never been happier. These are my 2 favorite shirts, and I just wear them all the time, and who cares if I'm wearing the same shirt all the time? I don't care. You shouldn't care either, I don't think. I have one denim shirt just to mix it up a little bit, and then I have a similar shirt. This is that pink one that I was talking about. I haven't really been wearing this one as much, but it's nice in the summer. Kind of gives me that Edward Abbey Desert Solitaire vibe, so I like this one. These 2 ones are ones that I just have to have for work. They're button-up shirts, so they still look professional when I'm on the job, but they're a very like lightweight fabric that's moisture wicking, so I'm able to work with them in the hot day, as well as covering up my neck and my arms from direct sunlight exposure, which is pretty nice. Here I have a secondhand button-up fleece that I like to wear just as a sweater option. And more recently, what might be replacing it is this nice wool cruiser jacket that I picked up at an army surplus store. I'm gonna throw this one on over top. It's a little bulky, so I can. I really like this one. It kind of reminds me of like the Filson cruiser that is like really expensive, like $600 expensive. It's 100% wool. It was made for the Canadian military. It's very heavy duty. This was secondhand. It might not have ever been issued to a soldier, but it was secondhand. I purchased it, to my knowledge, secondhand. I think I paid like 40 bucks for this, but because of the quality, because it's a heavy wool sweater, I just didn't see a problem with doing that. And I still get to have that nice high quality wool garment, but I'm not paying like hundreds of dollars to get it. Right now with my shoes, it's about a 50-50 mixed bag about what I bought secondhand and what I bought new. One of the ones that I got recently, which I was really excited about, is I've always been into barefoot shoes, as in like 0 drop, trying to make sure I'm walking kind of like in a minimalist shoe that allows me to kind of build up my natural arch. At different points in my life, I've ran a lot more, and I used to race in like Walmart water shoes because they were the cheapest shoes that I could find that were basically completely flat. I could never afford the really high-end barefoot running shoes, but I was at the local Value Village a couple of weeks ago actually, and I found these. Actually, my friend Dylan found these for me. He was with me. These are Vivo barefoot running shoes. They make minimalist running shoes. They're completely flat. They're really, really, really low profile. You can roll them up like this. This is the mark of a minimalist shoe, as you can do this with it. They're also very expensive, and I've never been able to buy one. I think they're like $250 a pair at least. I found these, and these are like in mint condition. Like if somebody wore them, they wore them very seldom. $13 for these shoes. And this is an example where I am caring about the brand for a quality perspective. I'm not so much looking for what is the in brand and trying to find it secondhand. And I guess that's fine if you wanted to do that too. But the point is that I'm looking for a brand that is going to make a specific type of garment, a specific type of shoe in this case, and I'm seeking it out on the secondhand market so I can get that quality if that's what I'm after, but I'm not having to, create the ecological footprint of getting that thing, and I'm also not having to pay so much as well. Now, another example of that where I wanted to buy a specific item that was way out of my price range, so I looked on the secondhand market to find a lightly used version, was these Red Wing Iron Ranger boots. I've been looking for these types of boots for a while, any sort of boot that had a Goodyear welt on the sole. These are very well built, timeless boots. They've been making them for like 100 years. They're super good quality and they are repairable by a cobbler, so you're able to wear them for years and years and have them resold so you can keep them going even longer. Now in Canada, these boots are very expensive. They're like 500 Canadian dollars to get these new. They're really good quality and I can kind of understand the price, I guess, but it just wasn't something that I was willing to pay that much for. So I was keeping an eye on the used market for a good while. And then a few months after looking, a very, very lightly used pair came on the market. I went and visited the guy and checked them out. And they were basically in brand new condition. They had barely been worn. He wanted like $180 for them. I think I got him down to $150 on them for what is essentially brand new $500 boots. Now these boots need a little bit of a polish because I have been wearing them a lot, but they're just my favorite boot to wear. They're such a timeless style and I'm just really happy that I was able to find them and not pay too much for them because I feel good about what I paid and I'm getting to get a lot of value out of them for the years to come. Now I also have talked about this in relation to my media as well, but I like to take my stuff and I like to pick a fixed area and say, this is the amount of space that I'm allotting for this thing. And if it can't fit in there, then I have to get rid of something to make it still fit. And that's how I've approached my clothing as well. Like this is my part of the closet and everything has to fit in this part of the closet or I can't have it. And down below, I have a few crates with my sweaters in them. These two crates hold my sweaters. Now I'm a sweater guy. I like wearing a sweater and in the winter, I love to layer up. So I think I have 8 sweaters right now. I'd like to get down to 6 and I'm still evaluating which 2 I'm going to be cutting, but it certainly won't be this big couch in here. That's one of the ones that you see me wearing on the channel. Definitely more in the winter. You'll see it more now. A couple of these are work-related ones, so I almost need to put them in a different spot. I think this one was the only one that I bought brand new. Everything else was purchased secondhand, and I think I'm looking at maybe $120 for all 8 of these sweaters, I think total. The last thing I'll show you is one of my winter coats. Now, this is an example of when I was talking about one of the values of buying secondhand is you can sometimes find an older piece of clothing that's actually quite a bit older. It's made from a previous time where the manufacturing standards were maybe a little bit higher and that quality was just a completely different level than we would find today. So I like my plaids and I was looking for a really Canadian classic plaid coat. Again, I was kind of looking for one on and off for months. I didn't want to pay too much for it, but I wanted to find one that really matched what I was looking for. What I ended up finding was this vintage Woolrich plaid coat. The outside of this coat is 100% wool. It's super good quality and it's once again an example of something that you just can't find anymore. It just feels so good on me and it's just like high quality piece of clothing. Now, judging by the tag on the inside of the neck here, I was able to discern that this coat was actually made in the late 60s and it's just crazy. I mean, somebody must not have worn it that much, but it's crazy to see how much something like this, how well it is held up when this thing is almost 60 years old. Now, once again, that company Filson makes one of these. It's called the Filson Cruiser or something like that. Again, it's like $600 or $700 for this. To find something even remotely comparable at a lower price, I think you're gonna be paying $250, $300. I got this for $55, and I think that is a steal for what it is. Well, folks, that's just about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video of my simple, minimal, and anti-consumerist wardrobe. I'd love to hear what you thought of this video. Are you making some of the same considerations that I'm making with my wardrobe in regard to your own? Let me know in the comments section. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.